Welcome to BelTalks. Thank you so much for participating and thank you for this great film. It's a wonderful film and congratulations for the Berlinale premiere, Berlinale Forum premiere. So I have to admit, I'm a geography geek. I love geography and I play a lot of geography games with my friends, but I've never heard about the city before. And that's what was really striking about this. So this place somehow missed my attention. I'm just at the beginning. I'm really interested about the place, and maybe you can tell us more. How did you get an idea to film there, and why this place failed in a way to become a big city? And yes, how did you get in contact with the place?
Okay, well, first of all, you're not the only person who doesn't know about the city. Even people living in Los Angeles don't really know about that city. It's like this hidden thing in the desert. It escapes everyone's attention. So, but how did we come to know about it? Is that my previous film, Desert Haze, was like a collection of all small stories in the American West. So it's from 2014. And it's like a mosaic of all small stories put together, weaved together in one big story. And so one night I was at Christmas dinner with my nephew, who is an architect and also a very an ardent geography fan. And he told me about that place. He said, "Well, I read on some guy's blog the story about California City, a city that that never came to be actually. Maybe this is of interest to you." And so I looked it up, and I decided this needed to be a part of my film back then. And so the three of us, Isabel, Lisbeth, and me, we went there for research. And immediately when we came there, we thought like, okay, but no, this needs to have its own story, its own film. So it was a small part of the film back then, but just a small part. And then we thought like, this could be something that we should do together as we went there together for research. And as the three of us really felt this need to make a film together because, you know, filmmaking can be sort of an isolating process. And back then there was this desire to create something from the startup together. So that's how we came to be. And then we just decided to go there. And that's when things got rolling. We came there and we immediately fell in love with the place. And that's how this is the origin story, actually. Yeah.
Yes, but the city itself seems like it's a place without history for me. While I was watching, I felt like it was kind of erased, like it's in how should you say, like it's like the background is erased in special effects, you know. So you just have a plain street map, and just things that surround you doesn't exist. So it's also kind of political issue for me.
Yes.
To film these people there, you know, it's like they're in some kind of limbo between two states, you know.
Actually, that's a very good remark, because this is also what interested us, is that the whole of the American desert was kind of seen as a place without history. Of course, it wasn't. So this is why we put the whole pioneer thing in this film, is this idea of this blank map that you can fill in. It's a very American idea, actually, that you can start over in this desert. It's like the origin myth of America. It's make a clean sweep, forget your past. So it's a way that Lachey goes to this place to forget about his own past. But of course, that's impossible. And even California City has this whole history behind it of the pioneers crossing this desert. And even if we, like culturally, we see the desert as an empty place, it's actually not. So there's all these traces of history in it. And so this was kind of a thing that we played with throughout the whole movie, is put layers of history on this seemingly empty place. So this is kind of the starting point of our film. Yeah.
So yes, as you said, the main character, Lachey, he becomes a kind of a pioneer of the 21st century.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you can tell us more about him and his past, maybe, or and his interaction with you.
Well, when we came there, the goal was sort of to just beginning to know the place and the people. But what immediately struck us about this place, that there's a lot of people, not only Lecce, but a lot of people going there from different parts of the world even, but mostly from Los Angeles to start again. So we found that an extremely interesting gesture, because this place, California City, was meant to be the next Los Angeles. But so it didn't came to be, but people from Los Angeles go there now to escape the city. So it's becoming sort of a mini Los Angeles in a way. And one day we were walking down the street and we saw some people walking on the California City Boulevard. There's actually a boulevard. It's named California City Boulevard. And we just started to talk with them. And they said, we're going to the adult school here, which is like a sort of a school where you can get your high school diploma when you're a bit older. So we decided to go in there because we thought like, hey, this is maybe the place we need to look, because these are people who want to start again. They didn't manage to get their high school diploma. So we followed the students, and that's where we met Lecce. But he struck us because he's a very imaginative person, and he immediately came up to us and talked to us, and we felt that he was really willing to participate in the film. He was very enthusiastic, and we had something in common, Lecce and us, is that for him it was also a new environment in the desert. For us as well, we are from Belgium, so green, a lot of rain, whatever. And so we shared a fascination for the desert, because even though for him it's sometimes a depressing place, he immediately started to investigate like the animals. He has a sort of a curiosity in him. And so that was something that we shared and that we found very beautiful in him, the way he put himself in this landscape. So that's why it immediately became a sort of a participating project where the four of us actually build up something throughout some months, because in total we've spent 6 months back and forth, of course, with in the city with him. And from there we worked on something together, and it was a really nice process with him.
You stayed with him, and did he influence the stream of the film, the narration of the film? Did he was working with you also on the, how should I say, scenes that should be filmed? Like you were talking with him about what should you do together, or it was pre-written?
It's a constantly, we call it a sort of a ping pong game. It's like constantly back and forth, you know. We came up with ideas first, but sometimes you had to let go of these ideas because reality always catches up with you. And we observed a lot in the beginning. Like in the beginning, we spent like 3 months just observing, not filming, just spending time talking, trying some scenes out. Sometimes we went with a camera just to try things out. And based on these like experiences, we started to build sort of a story. For example, I'm just going to give you an example. There's like this person, Charlize, in the film, and she was very obsessed with space. And she was constantly talking about black holes.
Yeah.
And we thought like, wait, this is very beautiful. And maybe she should tell Lecce in a scene about her fascination and for black holes. So this was a thing that we noticed during the research, and that we asked to Lecce, like, hey, can you make a scene around this? And that's where they started to improvise, you know. They sort of played themselves. We created a sort of a context for them, like small scenes, like we were going to walk throughout the city, and these are sort of the themes that you can along the way talk about or do stuff. And that's where they picked up and improvised. So they gave us a lot to work with, but the basic structure of the film is made it's like a process. Like in the beginning it was this, but if you work a long time on a film, as you probably know, then things start to change and evolve in a way. But it was very organically how it came to be. Yeah.
And when you mentioned black holes, this scene is really great. And I was thinking after the end of the film that it might be connected in a way with the last part of the film, or is it just my thought? How should I say? Because at the end of the film, he's alone for some time, and he reinvents the name of the city, and he is on some kind of journey which could be also a spiritual one, and he lives his his name. So the thing is that I felt the space itself kind of changed for him at that moment.
Yeah.
So is it connected in a way with the black hole scenes? How you when they're talking about how you pass through the black hole, you enter another galaxy. So it kind of struck me at the end, thinking maybe last 10 minutes of the film is like he not literally, but metaphorically passed through some point of no return.
Thank you. Yes, actually, that was kind of our imagination also, like that. That it's the other side, is the wormhole. It's a new start. It's a new universe that you can enter, which is again sort of a way that the pioneers did too. It's like entering this new universe. And exactly, but you're the first one to actually, for us, the film has not been played a lot yet. It was premiered in Berlin, so I'm very happy that you noticed this. So yes, this was something that we wanted to do. We wanted at the end to have a sort of a break, not radical, but to let him wander in his own universe and let him, like the pioneers did, name the things, invent the city, and also think about his legacy as well. That's why when he addresses like the future in his diary, it's like this sort of he becomes sort of a legend in that last scene. So yeah, it's a sort of interstellar moment where he enters a new universe. Yeah.
And who gave the name of the new city? Was it his idea?
Yeah, we asked him, like, because he started actually this whole name idea. It's again something that, like, one day we were driving through the desert and there was like this mountain and there was a rainbow over it. And he said, look, this is Rainbow Mountain. And we thought, like, hey, this is great. He's giving, he invented a name for this mountain, this anonymous mountain in the city. And that's what got us thinking, like, this is something actually that if you read his diaries of the pioneer, they were constantly thinking, like, let's name the things to, it's a sort of appropriation, like this is us now, which was of course a very wrongful gesture because it wasn't theirs. But for him now to enter this sort of gesture and this old myth and to say, like, this is also mine now, it's more like it's a very strong gesture. It becomes an old gesture that was sort of tricky, but in his hands it becomes something very forceful. And so we just asked him, what if you have a chance to name this whole city, or how would you call it? And he immediately came up with Victoria, which for him comes from victory, because for him it's his personal victory. So it stuck with him. And then we thought, like, okay, so the title of our film should be Victoria, because we decided in the beginning, like, the title of the film will be how Lachey names the film. And then we thought, oh no, there's so many films already called Victoria. But so that was his invention. So it stuck, and we thought it was very beautiful from him.
Yeah, but this is a very rare coincidence. But this year we have also a film called Victoria in the Serbian competition.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, it's not a very original title.
But it's the name of the girl, rock drummer girl.
Yeah. Mostly.
It's a very nice biography film about the girl.
Nice.
So yeah, let's continue. I was also interested in the turtle scene. And in the scene when they push the tire to the hill. So both of them kind of, I was thinking maybe if there is a mythological moment from Greek mythology, like the race between Achilles and the turtle, paradox, and then the Sisyphus hill, or is it just total coincidence?
Nice. No, that's I like it when people like put their own imagination to work, but actually I did think about the tire scene because, but only afterwards, because when they are pushing the tire up the hill, it reminded me of Sisyphus, of course. And I thought, like, the work that Lachey has to do in the desert, he has to rake all the traces, you saw it, the traces of the cars that pass through the desert every day. He has to rake it. So it's an enormous Sisyphus labor, because of course cars will pass there the next day. So it reminded us a lot about Sisyphus. And then I saw this tire scene and I thought, like, hey, this is also a gesture from Sisyphus. So, but it was only afterwards. So, but it says a lot about how our imagination works, and that we always connect to other times and other histories, which is what our film is also doing. It's like, it's a very associative film because we saw things and we associated it with other layers and stories and history. So, but thank you. No, the turtle scene, we never imagined it that way. That's a new interpretation.
The turtle scene was improvised, I guess. I mean, or not.
Improvised? Well, to be honest, yes. But it's actually the desert tortoise. It's a protected animal, so there's only a few left. And the problem is, if you find a desert tortoise on your plot of land, you cannot build something anymore. So in California City, of course, when people want to build, they are afraid that the desert tortoise will be on their territory, because then it's protected and they cannot be. But so we found this desert tortoise in a rescue shelter. And we thought, like, because you don't just pass it, it's a rare animal. And we thought, like, okay, let's have this surprise for Lachey. And we carried it with us. And and then we blindfolded him. And see, this is a bit how we worked. And then that's his moment, because he's very playful, actually. He's very, he wants, immediately when we started filming with him, he didn't like to be just observed. He wants to play, he wants to act. It's his way of being in the world. He felt like then that it's his own movie when he could play. And so he started improvising, and he did these wonderful things like turtle racing and petting the turtle, which was also a nice gesture, because who pets a turtle? Yeah. Well, Lachey does. And so it's all these little moments, you know, this is how we worked. We thought that we already felt that he was very sensitive with animals. He was constantly looking for animals. So this desert tortoise thing, which is also nice, because a tortoise is also an animal of the sea. So we have this whole thing throughout the whole film where there's the sound of the sea coming up and going down, because the sea is for him his past, like the past from Los Angeles. But the desert also once was the sea. So it's this changing of history. Once California City was underwater. So these geology formations are actually of ancient reefs. So we thought it was kind of beautiful. For example, there's also a scene where there's Charlize listening to a shell, to the ocean. So we thought, like, this is kind of our association, like, of these layers of time that are present at this place where we think there's no history. There's actually a very deep history, one of the sea as well, you know. So this is how our process worked also, and that we came up like, okay, a turtle is actually also a very beautiful animal to like show these different layers. Yeah.
And also, when you were talking to them and during the stay there, did you have an impression that some of them might be nostalgic about their past lives, that they want to return? And what about the children? His kids, how is it to live there as a kid?
Kids adapt. I mean, they find their own place, and they like their new environment, you know, cactuses and stones, collecting stones. And so kids, for them, they immediately adapt. For Lachey, this is also why the black hole metaphor is there. It's like he made it the metaphor, like Los Angeles is for him this black hole. It's like pulling him towards the city constantly, but he's trying to leave because he knows that even though it's his home, it's where he feels at home. It's like he knows the people, the streets, it's like his roots. He knows that he had to escape it in order to be able to continue his life. So, but it's this constantly pulling back and forth that is into place there with all the people living there. And this is also why we thought it was interesting, like this idea of reinventing oneself without a past. It's impossible. You always drag your past with you. And it's constantly trying to forget and reinvent, but the past, like a geyser, you know, the geysers that erupt, it erupts into the present constantly. So yeah, this is a bit the thing that we wanted to do. Yeah.
And they were checking throughout the film, they're checking Google Maps of LA.
Yeah.
So that's why I was thinking, okay, maybe they're missing the city. They miss the city sometimes. They miss the crowd. They miss the, you know, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lachey constantly wanted. His car was broken, like, you know. But if his car would work, he would say, like, I want to drive back to LA just for the weekend, just for the weekend. So no, that's also this thing. It's like check LA on the Google Maps. It's constantly this revisiting of this place, because of course they missed it. It's where all the friends and family and also identity. I mean, he could relate to this. That's what he says at a different moment. In Los Angeles, all the street had a meaning. It was like you put your story there, and everything is connected, and the streets even have a lot of meaning in LA. So it's you identify with streets, and then you have this whole network of streets in California City that don't mean anything to him. So, and now he needs to, in California City, it's like he needs to make these streets his own as well, you know.
And this is just a technical question. I was really amazed by the. Is there any software to capture Google Earth, or did you do it like just screen capturing?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's just screen capture. Very
really like an animation. It's not. I mean, it was flowing very amazing.
Yeah, it's a hidden feature of Google Maps. We discovered it while playing, that if you, I don't know the shortcuts anymore, if it's something with pressing Alt and stuff, and then suddenly it becomes 3D and you can kind of flow. So we showed that to Lachey, like, hey, and that's how you can like put from 2D to 3D. Yeah, there's a lot of missing hidden links in Google Maps. But no, we did a screen capture, and then we were thinking like, because like filming it from a screen, of the screen capture, but that didn't really match. So it's just a screen capture actually.
There is also this layer, which I might be wrong, but it was also kind of one of the associations while I was watching it. One of the connections is the racial issue. There's some kind of strong metaphor for me about the community being isolated in a place like this in the film. You didn't plan that.
What do you mean, plan it?
It is kind of a comment about racism also.
Yes, of course, yeah.
For them to be isolated in a place like this.
Yes, and it's again like what is also very important in that way is that if you're born an Afro-American or Latino or in Los Angeles, there's a sort of predestiny for you. This is what you can become, and it's very hard to escape these predetermined structures that whole society has laid out in front of you. So what these people do is trying to escape these structures that are by institutional racism laid out for them. So in a way, this whole gesture of them to move to California City is a trying to break through this pre-formatted structures. So yes, this was, for example, one of our main things that we wanted to communicate is this whole idea that the chances that they get and how they have to try to escape it, and that they are somehow stuck in this escaping. For example, what we thought was a very beautiful scene that they came up with was when they found a sort of a plane wreck in the desert, and they started to, with the whole group of them, they started to like joke about it, that it is a UFO and stuff. And then they say like, what if you could fly? And then they say like, yeah, I want to fly the airplane. No. And then suddenly they say like, okay, but you have to learn how to fly, because one day everybody, if the earth will be destroyed, everybody will go and we will be here. Like the government will leave us here. It's like they need to take fate into their own hands, because the government is not going to do it. They are just going to escape. And they came up with it as themselves. So it's these small things that they know what their situation is, and that they have to take life into their own hands and learn to fly a plane by themselves without anybody learning them. So it's like this whole small things are woven into the story to show how they see their own position in the world. Also, when Lachey walks with Charlize to school, and she's having this internet quiz, like that they all do for him, and she's asking him questions like, do you feel like you belong into this world? And he says no. It shows a lot about how he feels like in society. He feels like an outsider, and they all do, like they're not part of the world, so they have to create their own one. Yeah, this is a bit the intention of the film. Yeah. show this.
Yeah, I love that scene with the questionnaire. It's really, it's moving. Yes, I if you have something to add, maybe that I missed to ask you about what also behind the idea of the film, but my maybe last question would be how was it to direct like the three of you, how to with two more persons, how was it challenging, or did you flow very well, or did you have like for example, the Dardenne brothers, I think one of them works with the actors, the other works with the camera. That's how they divided the. So did you divide the responsibilities, or?
In a way, yes, and in a way, no. Well, we are three friends, but like you said, it's the Ardennes brothers. But sort of we became sisters along the way, like, and sisters sometimes have their difficulties, but they also have a bond that is like forever there, because actually we've been 5 years. This film was in the making, so it's, of course, it's no walk through the park, as everybody who makes films knows. And making films has a lot of advantages. Like I mentioned before, it doesn't feel isolated. You can constantly like talk about your ideas, and then you get immediately feedback, and so you move forwards in a very natural way. But we always had this idea, like, okay, we are three directors, so the whole concept needs to come from the three of us. And it's not that he wanted to pick a little bit from, oh, this is Isabel's idea of filmmaking, Lisbeth, Sofie's, and just pick a little bit and make a mixture. No, we wanted to start from the ground up and find a new form for us to make a film. So it was like from scratch. So we needed to invent something from scratch. And it was very natural in a way that we were never happy when there was like just the two of us who agreed and the third one was not agreeing. No, then that was not a good idea. We need to be the three of us. There were no compromises. Like the three of us needed to feel good about it. So that was a very hard work, because it's a lot of delusionment and a lot of working. But finally we came there. And as for the division between the three of us, the only real division that was there was on the set. Was like Isabel did the camera, Lisbeth did the sound, and I was more like what was my function? I needed to make the phone calls, more the production side of it. That was on the set. So this was kind of divided, but everything else, even editing, we did it with the three of us, because there was no budget for an external editor. So we needed to do it again with the three of us. And this is also why it takes so long. You would think with the three you move faster, but you move much slower with three. In editing, I think we edited for 6 months in total, because it's actually a more slow process than doing it alone. Yeah. But this is something that the three of us are proud of, is that it doesn't feel like there's three voices quarreling in the film. It feels very like, okay, quite solid, like concept wise. And
yeah, I mean, as a whole, it's really compact.
Yeah, until this day, we find it strange that we actually got there to such a, because it's very simple in a way how we did it. It's like but the whole process towards that was, of course, much more complicated. Yeah.
Maybe if you want to add something, or
No, I think we covered a lot. It was a nice Q&A, like interesting associations. Yeah.
Okay, so then thank you very much, and I'm really sorry that you cannot join us due to COVID pandemic, but hopefully next year, next film,
yes,
come to Belgrade.
5 years.
In 2025.
See you in 2025. No, actually, like Lisbeth has a new film out already, and I'm working on a new film, Isabel as well. So yeah.
So
like
maybe
separately, yeah. So
okay, thank you so much, and have a great day, and
good luck with the festival.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.